Okay then, we're just going to look at generating abstract imagery from photography. So I've taken a shot here of some water that's reflecting these trees and the sky. So what I'll do is turn this the other way around, and to do that quickly we can go to Document and flip vertical. And we'll also flip it horizontally, so we can go to Document and flip horizontal. Okay, so before we go any further, what I'm also going to do is thicken up all this detail, all this line detail of the tree branches. And to do that we can go to Layer, New Live Filter Layer, and Unsharp Mask Filter. Okay, so then if we drag the radius slider all the way up to its maximum, what we're then doing is increasing local contrast, which has the effect of thickening up and darkening all of these lines here. As it is though, the effect is a bit overbearing. To get around this, we can set the blend mode to darken. And then, in the interests of performance, because we're going to be adding more layers on top of this and doing brush work, rather than keep this as a live filter layer, we're going to click Merge. And what that will do, if we just move across to the Layers panel here, is flatten and rasterize that effect into this layer. Okay, so the next step is to add a black and white adjustment, which we can do through Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Black and White Adjustment. Then with this adjustment, we want to set the blend mode to Multiply. And you'll notice here, we've still got some color peeking through. We can take the red and yellow sliders all the way down, and that will neutralize the color of the leaves. And then just to increase the contrast between the sky and the trees here, we can bump cyan and blue up to maximum. Okay, so on top of the black and white adjustment, we then want to add a recolor adjustment. Okay, so the idea with this adjustment is to have a slight color tint. So obviously we can't use it as is. What we'll do is set the blend mode to Soft Light, and we'll drag hue to around about 30 degrees and bring the saturation down to about 25%. Okay, so that just lends the image a slight sepia tone. Now we're going to further bring out the contrast between the tree branches and the sky by using brushwork. So if I select the original background pixel layer and then add a blank pixel layer above that, that will then ensure the brushwork is also influenced by these adjustments. So I'll pick up the paintbrush tool. Across on the brushes panel, I'll select the texture category and select the first brush in there, which is a grunge brush. Then on the pixel layer, I want to set the blend mode to overlay. And we'll take the opacity down to about 50%. Okay, and finally then, if I hover over the image, we can just see a preview of the brush. That's using black, and we want to use white. So across on the color panel, I'll just set the active color to white. And then all that remains to do is to use a larger brush width. So I'll go for, say, 1400 pixels. And then I'm just going to brush into certain areas. Just to bring out some more contrast. Okay, so that's all the brushwork I'm going to do. So finally then, we're going to accentuate the painterly feel for this image. And to do that, we're going to use a bilateral blur. Now by default, live filter layers nest into whichever layer you currently have active on the Layers panel. So for example, if I go ahead and add a bilateral blur filter now, you'll see this nests into my brushwork layer. Now there are several ways around this. One of them is simply to drag the filter out to where you want it, like so. And I want this blur filter at the top of the layer stack, as I want the effect the adjustments are having taken into account when the blur is calculated. So I might say increase the radius to near enough 25 pixels, and then just increase the tolerance slightly to affect more of the image. Okay, so if I just zoom in, we can see what effect we're having here. you see we're achieving a kind of blotchy, painterly effect now. Bilateral blur is an edge-preserving blur filter, and by increasing the tolerance, we influence how much of the edge detail gets blurred. So if I reduce it, we can really fine-tune the effect and leave a lot of this edge detail intact. I'll choose about 20%. Okay, and then I'll close the dialog. So finally then, if we feel the contrast is perhaps too harsh, then we can simply just add a brightness and contrast adjustment. And using this, we can just bring the contrast down, perhaps increase the brightness. We can just use these to tailor the overall brightness and contrast to our taste. Okay, so there we go. If we just have a look on the history panel, I'll just roll the history all the way back to the beginning. So we've taken a photograph that was intentionally photographed to be a bit abstract to begin with, and we've created our own unique take on the initial abstract image. So then, I hope that's given you some useful ideas for your own work. If you have any questions or queries, please do ask on the Affinity forums, and don't forget to check out the other video tutorials. Thank you for watching.